5 scores! Rick Bud.
We've decided to get ourselves back in the game again with our podcast.
Rick Bud and Gary Madden.
Probably the craziest story that you're ever going to hear about hockey.
We're going to be coming back to you on a regular basis.
You are listening to Squid and the Ultimate Leafs Fan.
Hello, Canada and hockey fans of the United States and Newfoundland, and an extra big hello to Canadian servicemen overseas.
Welcome, everyone, to the episode 79 of the Squid and Ultimate Leaf Fan Show. I'm Mike Wilson, the Ultimate Leafs Fan. Joining me, as always, my winger, Ricky Squid Vibe. Squid, how are we keeping?
We're doing all right, Mike. A little kind of lazy day today. Not much sleep last night. I got my booster, and then, of course, you get all this stuff they give you to read, and it drove me nuts. I'm laying in bed thinking, I think my heart's going too quick. And but anyway, I'm doing okay.
Don't read it.
I'm sitting there waiting to leave the building after getting it, and it's right there. So I started reading it, and then I went, oh, my goodness. But anyway, I'll make it.
Well, our guest today, he's got a connection to your family. He enjoyed a 14-year pro career. He's from Toronto originally. Played in pretty much every league in North America. Was a very physical player when he played throughout his career. He's the owner of the Precision Skating School based out of Toronto and is currently head coach of the Cincinnati Cyclones in the ECHL. Welcome to the Squid and Ultimate Leaf Fan Show, Jason Payne. Jason, first off, thanks for joining us, and how's it going?
It's going great. Thanks for having me on. Looking forward to it.
Well, let's talk about the team for a second. The Cyclones are currently in second place, I believe. Considering the challenges we all face in the world today, I know coaches are never completely satisfied, and you're probably no exception. But how are you feeling about the team so far?
You know what? Our guys have worked really hard. With everything going on with with COVID itself, injuries, the NHL teams having taxi squads or not having taxi squads. Mm-hmm. Like honestly, the last 2 months have been an absolute, I guess you want to call it Ferris wheel of players coming in and out, going up and down. I don't think I've had a full lineup for the last, almost 2 months, close to 2 months. Guys are being called up. Right now, I have no contract guys on our team right now because they're all in Rochester, as Buffalo and Rochester have gone through COVID and injury issues, as you know. And I have a lot of free agents as well that are up in the American League as well. We actually just lost another one today to Abbotsford, one of our leading scorers. So, it's been fun. I've had to go around, make trades with different teams. I kind of feel like Kevin Costner in Draft Day, where, people look at me like, what are you doing? I'm like, just let me do my job. Let me do my job. So getting players in and moving players out. And, as you know, the social media aspect of it, hearing fans like, what is he doing trading players when we don't have enough guys to field the team? And with everything going on right now, why are you getting rid of players? Well, there's always a method behind my madness, I guess you want to put it that way. So it's fun. It's a challenge, but it's a fun challenge. So I'm looking forward to continuing on it. So
you guys have a pretty good thing with Buffalo and Rochester. It's a pretty strong one. Are you in touch with them a lot about the players and that sort of thing? And second part of that question is, do you think at some point we're going to see 32 NHL teams, 32 American League, 32 ECHL? Because I know now, compared to when I coached in that league, like there was times in several years that you guys had like 8, 9, 10 contracted guys. And I think that's probably, or maybe I'm wrong, but I think that's the way it's going to end up at some point. What would be your take on that?
I would agree with you. They want to say our league is the AA affiliate of the NHL, obviously, but every team is pretty much represented by an NHL team. Like we represent an NHL team somewhere in this league. If some have dual affiliates, because some teams do not have. So I would definitely see it going in that direction. And the way the hockey is right now with the leagues the way they are, the NHL is the elite of the elite. Those are the top players. They do everything the right way. They do make mistakes, but they do more things the right way, and the weaknesses in their game are not as prevalent as you can see. Whereas the guys in the American League, those are guys that can play in the NHL. They just have to find the consistency of it. And the guys in our league are potentially guys that can play in the American League. And it's just about them finding their consistency level. So, that's the difference. Like, there's guys in the American League that can play in the NHL. Well, there's guys in our league that can play in the NHL. It's just a matter of where they fit in, how they fit in, and the consistency of them fitting in. So with the leagues, how they've been utilizing their affiliates and their call-ups, I can only see it going in that direction, where as many teams there are in the NHL, there's going to be as many teams there are in the American League as there are in the East Coast League. And I'm sure it might even get to a point where it's branching out even more, so that you have them in their respective divisions, if you want to call it that way. The leagues used to have the West Coast, where the West Coast part of the league, where like Ontario, California had a team in the East Coast League. There was Stockton, California, Bakersfield, who's now in the Stockton and Bakersfield now in the American League. But these were all teams that were in the ECHL, but were on the West Coast side of things, where it's easier for those teams to call players up to there instead of necessarily calling a player from, let's say, Florida to go all the way over to Stockton, or somewhere on the East Coast all the way to the West Coast. So I can foresee that happening, and I mean the league is forever expanding. I guess it's just a matter of, like, as the NHL is just finding the right markets.
I was going to say to you, Jason, just maybe for the listeners, explain to them, you've played in several leagues, which we'll get into shortly, but maybe let the listeners know how good the ECHL really is. You've touched on it briefly, saying now the players can play American League level, but it is a pretty good league.
It's a very, very good league. And it's funny when you talk to some players sometimes, especially the younger guys, because they don't know any better. They have the misconception of thinking like, oh, well, you know what? I'm not going to go play in the American League. I'm in the East Coast League. Sorry. I'm going to the American League. Yes. Okay. I mean, I'm not here to burst your bubble, but reality is not going to be your best friend. That's all I can tell you. To get to this league, it's in playing this league and stay and have success in this league. It's a lot of work, because there's a lot of great players that play in this league. And the work ethic and the workload that's expected it's a different type of grind, because our jobs are here to prepare the players down here to have success at the next level, and not just be call-ups, but to have a bit more of an impact. So, when players actually get here and they find out and they see the pace of the game, I mean, there's players down here that have played in the American League for years, that have had success in the American League, and they're at a point in their career like they don't want to do that anymore, but they still know how to play the game at a high level, think the game at a high level. And when you get a lot of these young players, rookies that don't have that type of, know-how of how to play the pro game, and they go against these wily veterans, if you want to call it, the shock factor it's big, and they, it's a matter of now grounding them, like, okay, now you understand what you got to do, and can they handle it? Can they take that next step? Can they add that layer to their game? And that's completely on them. They have to take control of their own development as we help them. We guide them through the path. So we can only lead them to water, give them the blueprints, but they got to figure out how to drink it, how much they're going to drink.
Exactly. Well, I was going to ask you next, and then take that one step further. You spent a few years acclimatizing yourself to the pro coaching profession as an assistant. What was the biggest change from playing you found getting into coaching at this level?
I've always conducted myself in a certain manner when I played. And I think while coaching, I try not to change too much of that, my personality, my style. I don't ask the players to do what I wouldn't do or couldn't do. Like when I ask them to go in the gym and go work out and train, I go in the gym and I'll work out and train, and I'll lift heavier than some of those guys. But it's just to let them know that, it's a lifestyle. It can't be something you like or just want to do. It has to be a lifestyle. It's a passion. And when they see that passion in you and they understand, they feed off every word you say, because they know you're not asking to do something that you won't do, and you have their best interest at heart. So when they know you care and they know you're willing to put yourself on the line at the same time, they're willing to go to the wall for you.
So let's go
it's
back.
Funny, Jason. Hold on. It's funny you say that, because I remember getting into the coaching in the ECHL, my first coaching job after I played. And what drove me crazy was everything was out of my control. Like I couldn't go on the ice and do something about it. And that was probably the toughest thing for me in my first year, was the fact that I had no control over what was going to happen on the ice. All I could do was prepare the team, but I'm standing there. There's not a darn thing I can do about it, and that was really bothered me a lot.
Oh my God! It's now you say it is so true though, because I look back and I'm thinking this part of the game, and as I watch our players on the ice, and I sit back and I think to myself, man, if I was out there, this wouldn't happen. Like, come on, guys. Like, I shouldn't tell you what to do here in this point. Like, this is something that should be a natural instinct, reaction or an instinct for you. But it's not the makeup of these kids in today's game. And yeah, I want to be out there sometimes and just want to give it all and give my energy as well too. And then realizing, like, no, it's on them now. Like, I've given them the pre-scouts and what we need to do and how we need to accomplish it and what we need to execute. When they're on the ice, I can't be there with them. I can only sit back and just hope that they have taken in everything that I've set forth for them, and they can apply it, and we can have success from it. So definitely that is, especially with the style of hockey that I played, when I see like the fights or anything happening, like I sit there and it's like you catch yourself and my whole body just gets tense because you're naturally back into it. So. But yeah, that's definitely a part of the game where you sit back and say it's a big difference, a big change.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, Jason, all the guys we've had on who've moved into coaching, including guys like Jared Bednar and Bruce Boudreau, have all said the same thing. Okay, you can sit and watch. And Squid the same thing. You can sit and watch and instruct and point out the odd mistake here and there, but all you can do is cross your fingers and hope that they get it and go out and execute as you suggest.
Yeah, that's all you can hope for, man.
All right, so let's go back to the beginning. Born in Toronto, your mom didn't have a car. You traveled by TTC to games as a kid, and I think you even started as a goalie.
Yes, I was a goalie. My mother took me to learn to skate at St. Mike's Arena. I think it was with the Toronto Olympics skating program they had there, and I had no idea what was going on. It was funny because I wake up in the morning. My mother takes me to the arena, and she wakes me up and she puts some tights or whatever on me to keep me warm, and takes me to the arena, puts some equipment on me, and pushed me on the ice and says, "All right, here you go." I had no idea what was going on, but just you're gliding around, and from what I gather, from what I remember, I mean, I took to it the best I could, and I just remember walking out of the arena one day after one of our skates, and it's funny because that was my first skating coach ever. Back then, especially, was I can't remember his name, but he was black, and like to have that was quite rare, and so is I guess that's one thing that kind of help you associate and continue to want to do the sport. So it was a rarity, and I was I guess those are things that happen in your life for a reason. Mm-hmm. Along with I guess walking out of the arena and walking by a dressing room. And if you remember, St. Mike's it still is the same way. When you leave the dressing room, you're under the stands. Yep. So, you're walking in, the slant of the of the thing. So walking by a dressing room, and I saw some players in there, but they were goalies. And they had all these pads and all this equipment. And I was looking at it, I was just like mesmerized. I was like, so I think that's where the passion of the goalie started with me. And then, I was a goalie for quite some time, and I think it was to minor Bantam was the first year that I became a player. But going back, I mean, goalie was my life. It's just I just loved it. Just love strapping on the pads, and I'd get on have the pads and blocker and glove and stick. And I'd stand in front of the TV and watch Global. I think it was a Sports Line or Global, whatever it was, where they would all the highlights of the games that and I'd be watching, and I'd be emulating the goalies and like making saves, and it was like or Rick Vive coming down ripping a stop shot in the bar, not this time, and
Well, now Kevin Weeks played a big influence in you, I believe, and even still to this day.
Yes, so that was and so that's where it also went to from there. As Kevin and I grew up in the same neighborhood downtown Toronto, and our parents were friends before we were friends, and just him being a goalie, and then me watching him and watching his climb and progression in minor hockey was, it was great. I mean, we grew up, like I said, down St. Clair, and it's times we go to the old Christie Pits. And a funny story of Christie Pits, I went there with one of my daycare trips one day, and it was in the summertime, and there was the baseball diamond they had there. So there's a big crowd, and I was like, what's going on? This big crowd. We were with our daycare at the time, and we saw all these guys, and I'm like, who are these guys? These guys look huge. And then someone said it's a little charity baseball or softball tournament they got going, or game they got going on here. Yeah, it's the Toronto Maple Leafs. I'm like, what? So I'm like, we were all hanging by the fence, and then I see this guy, and then I look up, and I'm like, I just see biceps for days, and I'm like, oh, this guy's. I'm thinking to myself, this guy's huge. So I just asked him for his autograph, and he said, sure. And then so I pulled it back, and then I said, thank you. I said, and then I asked him, I said, what's your name, sir? And then he goes, I'm Rick Vive. I said, that is
Come on.
awesome, man.
That is funny.
So, and that's a story I talk about forever. And it was awesome. And I just remember the shirt. We make jokes about it, but I could swear that shirt was like an Italian large. Like his biceps were about to tear out.
They made them pretty tight back in those days.
So that was great. And those are stories we talk about for days. I could talk about it, and just with Kevin himself, Weeks. I used to go to his house, and we when he moved out to Scarborough, and we used to hang out all the time, and play with his goalie gear, talk hockey all the time, and just seeing him continue to go and grow in the sport. Me getting to a point in my career where my minor hockey career, anyways. I remember my dad telling me, you should be a player because there's a better chance of making it as a player. And I think the whole ploy behind that was because he didn't want to buy me goalie equipment because it was expensive. So I transferred. I changed to being a player, and that was a big transformation for myself. Skating in normal skates, and you could do things on ball hockey with a stick, but it's to do it on the ice. It's a little different. I tried out for a bunch of teams. I didn't make any of them. And then one day, I think halfway through the season, I just kept going to shinny hockey every day. Every day was a shinny hockey. I mean, like I said, you said earlier, like I was taking the bus everywhere. Like I'd come home from school, and my mother would come home from work. Like I think I would come home from one of her jobs, or second job, or whatever. And then, she'd drop her bags, and we'd hop on the bus because we'd head down to Chesswood or wherever, or Forest Hill Arena, wherever there's a tryout. And we hopped on the bus, went there, and we tried out. And that's just, you do whatever you can do for hockey. And back to the whole thing of me being a player. One day I went to play shinny hockey out in Scarborough, and there was a team practicing after shinny hockey. And some of the kids, they saw me, and I guess I looked their age. They asked me how old I was. I think I said I was like 13 or 14. And they said, oh, okay, well, who do you play for? I said, I don't really play for anybody. He goes, oh, really? Because they saw me at shinny. He goes, you want to practice with our team? And I'm like, sure. Okay. Yeah. So I practiced with their team, and after practice was done, they're like, so you're not playing for anybody? I'm like, no. He goes, do you want to play hockey? I'm like, yeah, for sure. I'd love to play hockey. He goes, do you want to play for our team? And I was like, oh, sure. Okay. So that was my first team out of being a goalie. It was the Toronto Devils, a single A team. And funny thing is, for that team, like I learned a lot. I met a lot of friends there, and we were actually the city champs that year. And my development took a whole other turn from that point on. Just I got better as the year went on, but my hunger for the sport just kept growing and growing and growing. And watching my friends I went to school with playing AAA hockey, and I think my fascination is, I guess, with being a goalie is with AAA hockey at that point. The equipment you get for free, like you get hockey pants, you get gloves, you get helmet, whereas in the other place you get a gloves and a helmet, maybe a pant shell. But this one's in AAA, you actually get the pants itself and full tracksuit swag, and so that was just like my driving force. I just wanted to get to those levels and get that stuff. And every step of the way, everyone was telling me you can't make it, you can't make it, you're not good enough, you're not good enough. And yeah, it just had to. The naysayers and the doubters, I just had to put them in the back of my mind and use that as fuel. And, like I said, keep going. Don't change anything I've been doing. Keep going up to shinny hockey every chance I get. Wherever there is ice, I go to. And I was fortunate enough to, I guess I lived at around Finch and Leslie. So Cummer Arena was down the road. Yep. And there was Hillcrest Summits was a team that was playing out of Cummer Arena. Yep. And I happened to run into, again, at a shinny hockey, I just went by the rink, and they were practicing there. And I asked the coach if I could, practice with their team, and he let me practice with their team. His name is Greg Aletto. I still talk to him up to this day. And he let me practice with their team, even though I was playing single A, just to continue to develop. And, the following year came and I went and played for single A team again, but it wasn't enough of a challenge for me. And I was getting frustrated to the point where the single A team got upset because I was getting too upset. And Greg turned to me and says, "Come play for us." And it was a bunch of kids on that team that were just like me. There was just hungry kids that didn't really come from much, just wanted to play hockey and love it. And he took us all in and we battled and we had a great team. And it also helped me develop even more. And then the jump from there to AAA came, and I went to Wexford Raiders.
Yeah.
And that was a trying year because I didn't get much ice time and the frustration level was there. But the lessons you learn of nothing comes easy. You got to grind. And, after that year in Wexford, Kevin Weeks got drafted to Owen Sound, and I went to Owen Sound's training camp. And, I did well in training camp, obviously not at the OHL level, but, I had a fight. I scored a goal. I was the first cut. It is what it was, and I came back to Toronto, jumped on with the Mississauga Senators organization. And it was, there it is. There it is. Right. And they had, there was a team that they just came from pretty much winning the city championships the year before. And, to jump on with those guys, a bunch of skilled players, it was a great learning experience for myself as well there too. And it helped fuel my hunger even more. And, wanted to go to the OHL and wanted to crack lineups. And I mean, I've touched the ice in many different leagues. From that year after Mississauga Senators, I was a tryout with the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds. Then, I practiced with and tried out in the Dub. I practiced with the Saskatoon Blades, tried out with the Tri-City Americans and the Seattle Thunderbirds. I even tried out in the Quebec League with the St. Hyacinthe Lasers. And all of that to bring me back to finally be able to crack the lineup after everyone's been telling me I can't do it, to crack the lineup with the London Knights. And, that to me was such a dream come true for me to finally be able to do it and to go out there my first game and pretty much win my first fight there in the OHL and the fans absolutely screaming with excitement. That was a big time for me, a big time in my future and in my career. Sorry. And, that helped me to fuel towards where I am today in the future, like meeting friends and building my career going forward.
So talk about ending up at your first year of pro hockey was with Flint, 19 points, 224 minutes in penalties in 59 games. So you let them know you're around. How was that whole experience?
That was great. To be able to get up there and I joined on with a gentleman named Robbie Nichols. He was our general manager and coach at that time. And to me, he was if you know the movie Semi-Pro, he was the Jackie Moon of the Colonial League back then. So he would jump on the ice and do any kinds of sponsorship or sales or any kinds of chuck a puck, throw pucks at him, and it was. But he found a way to fill the seats, and he also said to me, I'll get you called up to the IHL, which was at that time the similar level as the AHL. And I said, all right, just do what I got to do. And I went out and I fought the likes of Mel Angelstad, who was an absolute heavyweight back then, Herb Ragland, who was an ex-NHLer. There's so many guys that would go through that was in that league back then that were at that point. I was in there as a 20, 21-year-old and fighting men that were 27, 28, 29, 30. And, before you know it, he sent me up to Detroit Vipers in the IHL. And to get the chance to go play at Palace of Auburn Hills with the Vipers, who at that point in time were like an amazing team. And, I remember that first call up. I went and I practiced. And after practice was done, they're like, okay, guys, we're leaving for Orlando at, let's say 3:00. I'm like, Orlando? I was like, oof, that's a long bus ride. I'm like, so I went to the trainer. I go, am I going with you guys on the trip? He goes, hold on a second. And he goes, Ludsey. Steve Ludzik was the coach at the time. Is Payne coming on the trip? He goes, yeah. He comes back, yeah, you're coming on a trip. I'm like, okay, well, we're leaving at 3:00. What time does the bus leave? He goes, oh no, we leave from the airport. We fly out from downtown Detroit. I go, fly out? I'm here in a tracksuit right now. I have nothing else. So I jumped in the car and I ripped back to Flint. and packed some stuff quickly, and then drove right back to Auburn Hills and jumped in the truck with the equipment guys, and we drove down to Detroit. And as we're driving there, we drove past the airport. I'm like, well, the airport's right there. Where are we going? Oh, we're going to our plane. I'm thinking to myself quietly, oh, okay, our plane. I'm like, okay. I'm just sitting quietly. So we pull up to this big hangar, and I'm like, okay, well, I don't see anything here. So we go through these doors and walk through another set of doors and metal detectors, and then this kind of a windproof kind of door. And all of a sudden, we're inside this big hangar, and there's a big plane sitting there in the middle of the hangar. And at that point, the plane was called Round Ball 1. And that was the same plane that the Detroit Pistons used.
Pistons,
Yeah.
So I was like, so you can imagine me from riding a TTC and a normal bus and seeing this plane right now. I'm like, oh my God, it's a plane. So
Well,
I haven't even gotten inside yet.
Well, Jason, we had a question for you because with Stevie Ludzik, who we've had on, who's a good friend of ours, he was coaching, obviously, the Vipers. Now, he talked about, were you in Thunder Bay when he brought his team there?
No, I was in Thunder Bay after that.
Okay, so, well, I wanted to talk about the Thunder Bay experience, and I'll tell you what Lutzy said about playing in Thunder Bay at the time with his team. His quote was pretty much, packed rink, and the Assassins were out in full force. Those guys were tough.
100%. You knew it was like Slapshot. You knew when you were going to Thunder Bay, like it's like you're looking for Carl Racky, or you're looking for any of those guys from Youngblood. Like you knew you're getting in one. And you know, they had a lot of guys back there. I mean, like I said, Bruce Ramsey, Vern Ray, Mel Engelstad, like it went down the list. You know, you had your choice. And I knew every night I was going in there, I was like, okay, I'm fighting two of these guys, or at least three, who knows. And then I ended up actually going there to play there. And they loved me. They welcomed me in with open arms. And, you know, they love their guys. They love their guys. And it's 100%. It's a packed rink, and it's the only show in town pretty much, right? And it was a great experience, a great place to play. And, you know, I definitely enjoyed my time there.
Well, I had my assistant coach for a while in Charleston, Rick Avuno, is from Thunder Bay. So he kind of poached a bunch of guys from that team and other guys from Thunder Bay. We had some pretty good players from Thunder Bay that came down and played in South Carolina. And I think the year we won the championship, I think we had 4 guys from Thunder Bay on our hockey team. So they had good character, and that's what we were looking for.
Yeah, they definitely had that up there. They're like toughness, but they could play, and they won championships in our league, right? In that league back then. So
yeah,
all because of that, for sure.
Now, Jason, I was going to ask you, you've been on a number of teams already. You've obviously stepped yourself as a guy who can play physical. You're a big guy. You can play the game as well. Why all the movement at that time? I mean, surely teams knew what you brought. But was it just, why wouldn't they commit to you for longer term? Or was that just the way it was done in those days?
It's kind of the way it was done in those days. You know, you get in where you fit in. And a lot of times it's call-ups. You call up to fit the, I guess, the hole, you know, plug the hole of whatever situation they need. And, you know, your journeyman to travel wherever you're needed, you go. And it was about team first. So if the team needed me, I go do what I have to do for the team. And yeah, you know, you'd like to be somewhere for a long period of time, but I think because I was so hungry to make the jump and continue to try to make the best of it to get to the next level, you know, I was never complacent.
Squid, here's a question for both you guys I'm going to ask. Now, your first taste of hockey was in Cincinnati. Jason, we're going with the first year in the ECHL. Moving around these different cities, was there some common thread or similarity amongst them? And I guess where I'm going with this was some of these bigger cities were bigger than others. They'd have a couple major league teams, maybe a big college team, but probably more the circuits you were involved in were along baseball and hockey. What was it about these small towns that was so attractive for the players and got you guys so involved?
I think because, like you just said, there's sports that are around the towns, but when you're more or less the main sport, like hockey is the main sport, and you're that team, I think that's where the attraction came to everybody. It's not like, you know, it's a little bit tougher. Like when you look in Toronto right now, you know, the Marlies are up and down, they're up and down. And unless they're guys that are, you know, prospects or guys that are going to be in the NHL or called up a few times, like they could relatively walk on the street and be unknown. And it's just the way it is because the Leafs are the big show there, and that's why for all these teams in these minor and major junior teams, they're the only teams in town. They're the major teams in town, and that's why all those young guys, they feel like they're gods out there because they're treated that way. And the same thing with universities. If you're in those small, those university towns where, you're the only big hockey team that's there, people recognize you, especially if you're a D1 and, you go to Miami of Ohio and your name is Justin. I mean, that one there.
Yeah. I've been there many times. It was a wonderful place to go to, I tell you. And I think, funny thing is that about Justin is that when he got drafted by Sudbury, we went up there. Mike Foligno was the coach, and he kind of saw that the fans loved the team in up there. But then he said to me, he said, "We're driving back," and I didn't say anything. I didn't tell him to go play major, junior, or college. He said, Dad, he says, I don't know how much I play in up there, and he said, he says, I'm a good player, but I'm not a great player. And he said, I may not get the opportunity to play a whole lot there. I'd rather go to the U.S. development program where I'm going to get a better opportunity. I'm going to get real good off-ice training and then go to school. And as soon as he said that, I just played it like it didn't matter to me. But I thought, oh, boy, am I ever happy he's doing that. He's going to go get an education. Yeah.
No, for sure. It's I look back at it. I played in the OHL, but it's just something as a kid in Toronto, that's what we wanted to do. If I was going to go to school, it probably would have been for football because that was my other sport. I was a 2-time Toronto All-Star while I was playing hockey. So to juggle football and hockey at the same time was tough. But I just loved hockey so much, and that's why it just pulled me in that direction. And I guess having friends in the same sport, it's you're around the people that that think the same like mindset of you. So you're only forced to go in that proper direction. And hockey was that for me. So.
Well, I was just going to finish up with that comment and Squid with you, even with South Carolina. And the fact of the matter is you're playing in these small towns and you're playing in these places. You're seeing the same faces at the rink as you're seeing at the grocery store, the barbershop, at a bar, anywhere you walk in town. So you're a part of the fabric of the community. So to me, it'd almost be more of an honor representing the community in the job you're doing for them playing hockey than maybe somewhere else. You may be a call up and taking it away to any given time, but it's almost like you're looked upon as part of the community.
For sure.
Yeah.
I agree.
I would have to say absolutely. I mean, when I was in Charleston, it was so funny because, I think they're so used to the college sports and everything in places like that, where everybody just called me Coach. I'm like, call me Rick, will you? But it was a college town and it was college sports. And that's what they call the guys that coach the university teams is Coach. And that's all they kept calling me. And I begged them to call me Rick. But no, it was Coach all the time. And the people there, they loved the players. They did whatever they could for the players. It was phenomenal.
No, I agree with you 100%. For me, what I always took upon myself in my career to get out in the public, do every kind of event that's, go to schools, read to the kids, go to hospitals, see the children, and anything community service, I always got involved in. And, for me, I felt that was one of the, other than playing hockey, that was the second most important part of your job. And that's the reason why, I think when I go back to a lot of these towns, you're always welcome back because, you've given a part of yourself to that town that show that you care and that you're not just using them as a stepping stone or a quick little pass through.
Now, one of the teams that you didn't play for, but one of the leagues you played in, the now defunct United Hockey League, featured the famous or infamous Danville Trasher. Now, did you get the opportunity to play against those guys?
No, I never got the opportunity to play against those guys. They came in later in the league when I was there, but I did see them. I read about them a lot, and I knew some guys that played for them.
Like, what did you think when you heard a 17-year-old kid with a mobster for dad running the hockey club?
I wasn't surprised.
Okay.
And as you say, there's no filters here. So
Yeah,
I came from the GTHL, so I'm not surprised.
Okay, no, you got it.
Yeah.
Now the documentary, is that a pretty accurate account of what was going on?
I'm sure it was pretty accurate. I'm sure there was a lot more to it. But again, they do they do what they need to do just to let you know what you need to know.
Now, let me ask you this. Did you run into Garrett Burnett or this Ruben Nudar?
Garrett Burnett was my roommate in
that's funny.
my first year pro. Well, my first year pro technically was in Utica for the Utica Blizzard.
Yes, that's right.
And then the year after I went to Flint. As I went back as my overage year halfway through that year. But Jarrett was my roommate in Utica, and we also fought. And I mean, I couldn't even tell you the amount of times that we fought after that, because same age, going to different training camps, playing at different teams. We both do have the same job, so to fight. We fought in the American League, we fought in every league. So Ruben Nudar, him and I never fought. We maybe confront each other a couple times in the OHL when I was in London. He was in Guelph, but after that was really about it. I mean, there's plenty of other guys out there to fight. So yeah, I guess it is what it is.
Well, what about this other guy? This Brad Wingfield.
Well,
across him.
Wingfield, no, we never crossed paths. Wingfield, I think was in a different league or different division. But a lot of those times when those guys were coming through there, I ended up in the American League, and I was locking horns with a lot of bigger beasts up there than some of those guys. So,
hey, Jason, I was just going to finish up with this Wingfield. I don't know if you ever heard this story, but I heard him on a podcast one time. And one part of that documentary in the Danville Trashers, somebody broke his leg, so he went out for revenge on the guy when he got back a couple months later. And everybody's waiting for the fight, so he went after the guy, and the guy wouldn't fight him. But anyway, he beat him up. And part of the video was never shown publicly because apparently, according to this guy, and he said this on the air, he tried to step on his head with a skate. So that was for real. So, okay, there's a point of crossing the line, but this is crossing the line of insanity, okay, at some point. In your years, and some of the guys you've come across, you talked about a lot bigger and tougher, some of the bizarre things that you've seen over the years.
I've seen a lot of bizarre things. I think for myself, I've been somewhat fortunate to, I guess, the role I played, the style I played, and the success I had doing it. Any of that crazy stuff wouldn't happen in my direction because I don't think people think they could take that kind of liberty. So I've been fortunate that way.
True. That's a good point.
But
yeah,
I mean, at one point during the lockout year, I went to play in that Quebec League.
Well, that's what I want to get into next.
You want stories? I give you stories.
We want to hear a few. Let's put it this way. This league, the NHL in 2010 did a study on it. The NHL was averaging 0.6 fights per game. This league, 3.2, and that's probably on the low end.
100%. Three fights.
Yeah, somebody
were in the first. Let me see if he drops the puck fast enough. 10 seconds of the game.
What was it like? How did you play there?
It's they're offering money.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, they were paying some pretty big money there, and I remember somebody telling me that basically the teams would get on the bench, and then all the tough guys would start the game, and then they'd all fight. And then they'd all fight again and again and get kicked out of the game, and then the hockey game would begin. That's pretty much what the league. That's pretty much what the league was. They said.
Yeah, it's pretty accurate. I remember, like in Quebec, for example, when I was there, there was a bunch of guys with a guy by the name of Jacques Dubé, and he's a local from Quebec, and he's like a celebrity down there because it's all he did was fight, and he couldn't really play hockey, but he could fight, and great guy. We had, Joel the Animal Terrio. He was on the team as well too. And, I remember we're sitting there in the dressing room. Coach calls us in his coach's office, comes in, closes the door, and then behind the door there's a dry erase board, and there's names. Okay, Jacques, you're going to fight first. Jacques is fighting first. He's fighting this guy. And then you're fighting this guy. And then Payne, you're fighting this guy. And then, I'm like, oh, okay. And sure enough, you go up there, drop the puck, and they play it up to the sound of ding, 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 and then Jacques goes and he fights, and then his fight is done. Then we line up again. Puck drops. There goes Joel. He fights. Okay, then they line up again. They go to the box. Puck drops. Here I go. I'm fighting somebody, and then usually sometimes there's one more fight, and then hockey. Play hockey. Play hockey. Play hockey.
Yeah.
Third period comes along about the 10-minute mark. All right, it's time to go again. Send Jacques out there to get his thing done, and then it was. And I'll tell you one of the crazy stories. So we played Laval, and they were the Chiefs, and they had a bunch of guys in their team, and we played them in Quebec, and our arena was the old Colisée, and it had could fit about 15,000 plus whatever it is, and we had over 10 to 11 to 12 maybe in there for that game, and sure enough, fight after fight after fight, and we end up the fans were pouring on to their bench, like they were shaking the glass behind their bench, and to the point where the glass broke and the fans fell into their bench, and it was almost they were fighting in their bench and stuff was going on. And so anyways, long story short, the problem is we played them the next night in Laval. So, their fans were ready for us when we got there. And it was amazing because I sat there on the bench and I was watching the game was going on, and the penalty box for the visiting team there has like a shelter over it. And so the glass comes in, there's a shelter, so you can't get access to it. And I literally watched a fan climb up on the glass with a beer, reach around the glass and throw beer in at one of our players sitting in the penalty box. And I was like, wow, this is insane. So I just sat there watching it, and a couple fights happened. The game went on some more, and then for some reason, I'm watching the fans in the stands. I see this one guy come in with a shopping bag, and I'm like, this is odd. Why is the guy coming with a shopping bag? And he's coming very sneaky. And I was like, okay, as I'm watching, he goes down one aisle. He's doing this. Goes back upstairs. Goes to another aisle. He's talking to people. Goes another one. I'm like. And I elbow the guys beside. I go, hey, something's going on over there. You just keep your eye out. Sure enough, game's going on, and all of a sudden, eggs started flying across the ice. Hammering, hit the back of our player, bang, bang. Eggs were flying everywhere. I sat in the bench, and I was like in absolute shock. Like I was like, I saw this coming, and no word of a lie. And this is why you always got to you do what you do in your job, but be an honest guy about it, and if you're honest about it, you're truthful about it, you're going to get a lot more respect. And our team ran off the bench under the tunnel, under the stage, and under the stands where our dressing room was. And I stayed and sat on the bench, and I watched this all happen. And I remember friends were like, get off the bench, get out of there. I'm like, nah, man, I'm just watching this right now. And not one fan threw an egg at me. Not one threw an egg at me. And I thought for sure someone's gonna have to throw an egg. Not one fan. And they all looked at me and they all they nodded their head at me. I think it was like a respect factor. I'm not dirty. I just do what I got to do.
Yeah.
That's my old my setup pose there just before the fight's about to start there. But just the fact that they gave me that respect, and I give the fans respect too. I'm not going to be rude to the fans. You're there to do a job and just do your job, and they appreciated that. But to watch that happen is like people are saying it's a treat. It was a real treat.
Well, now, apparently speaking,
it's funny. Hold on one sec. It's funny you mentioned Laval, because when I was playing in Sherbrooke in the Quebec League, okay, we're playing Laval in the playoffs, and we're beating them, and we're in their building, and I come over the blue line, and it's called offside, and I'm turning, and I get hit in the side of the head with something, and down I go. I get up. There's an empty beer can full of sand with tape on it to keep the sand from coming out that they threw on the ice and hit me in the side of the head. And I was like, what the heck is that? I was shocked because I had never seen anything that crazy before. And when that happened, it was kind of like, it was a big awakening for me. I went, I guess I better keep my eyes on everywhere when I'm playing.
Yeah, it gets real out there for sure. I've seen bottles flying everywhere. Beer, Coke, Sprite, you name it.
Well, folks, by the way, there's a documentary on it that's out there. I suggest you watch it. It's like the Danbury one, only this one's on steroids, I think, another level. Donald Brashear, is, I don't know if you're aware or not, Jace, but he played there in 2014. He went with the intention of only playing hockey. So he was putting up some points, and he had a couple fights here and there. But the next year he went, it was all over. He just couldn't take it anymore, and he was fighting every night again.
Yeah. Well, when I played in Quebec, he was on our team.
Oh, he was on your team. Okay, good.
Yes. So, like I said, we had for the Quebec people, a star-studded lineup. Like, everywhere we go, like it was a Brashear show, and then we had Sylvain Blouin, Jason Hamilton. There was a whole bunch of guys. It was definitely an interesting. Every rink we went into was interesting. But yeah, I felt for Brash at the time because everybody wants to have him under fight card, and does he necessarily want to fight everybody? No. Not really. I mean, he's done that stuff, but you're there, you're getting paid big money. Eventually, you're going to have to answer the bell a few times, and that's what it was about, right? So, and eventually, yeah, he did go back, but I guess, after a while, yeah, for sure. It's just enough's enough, man. You don't need to do that anymore, but some people, it's just what is. It's part of life.
What is it in Quebec? Are the fans crazy, or are they just like? Because I remember another episode, our coach in Sherbrooke, Jocelyn Delage, so we're up 21-1 against Shawinigan. There's like 20 seconds left in the game, face off in their end, and the coach pulls a goalie because the record was 21 and he wanted to set a new record of 22. Oh, well, lo and behold, my centerman's pulling it back, and I'm waiting to take the shot. Of course, I'm not going to not try to score. So he wins the draw right back, bang, in the net. We have to go back to Shawinigan. Well, all hell broke loose. Our coach got rained on with bones with meat still on it and everything. Then we get out, and after the game, we get on the bus, and they're pushing the bus back and forth. And it was like, I said, holy shit, what is going on here?
Oh, it's definitely that way. I mean, they're just very passionate in a whole different level about hockey over there. It'd be really nice to see them get an NHL team back. I mean, in Quebec, it would be great. I'm sure they're, the fans would just absolutely love it. I mean, Patrick Roy is doing a great job with the Ramparts over there, their Quebec Major Junior team, but they love it. I mean, in that league, the same thing. I mean, we played a game in Verdun, which was an old team of mine, and after we left there, after having a big brawl again, they spray painted our bus. They did the same thing. They threw stuff at our bus. We had a game when I was in Verdun, and we won the championship that year, and we had to play St. George, further up north. Somebody in the organization, whatever, said they're a bunch of cow farmers up there, and sure enough, they went and got buckets of cow manure and put it in the dressing room. So when we walked in the dressing room, it was absolutely reeked. I mean, so yeah, they're definitely passionate about their sport up there, and but it makes it fun, and it's a lot of memories and stories to talk about later on.
I played in George when I played for the Real McCoys when I was about 40 years old. I just thought I'd come back and play a year, and we ended up going to the Eastern Finals or whatever it was, and we had to go to St. George, Quebec, and that was a pretty good experience. The fans there, they love their hockey.
Yeah, it reminds me of another Thunder Bay.
Yep. Very, very similar.
Yeah. Well, now, Jace, we've heard some stories about you playing on the physical side. Now, over the years of all the spots you've played, and we've heard lots of stories from players playing in the minor leagues with bus breaking down, running out of gas, no money for post-game food. John Bolfie drove a bus one time during a major snowstorm because the driver was too scared to drive the bus. Trainers playing goal, beer leaguers called in to fill in rosters. Some of the nutty things you've seen over the years throughout the leagues along those lines.
I've seen one of our players actually drive the bus. He shared the driving duties with our bus driver. I've seen equipment managers dressed as goalies, as basketball goalies. There's always crazy things that happen. I mean, I've had points where we've gone on the road in the American League, and people missing the bus to get to the airport. Guys obviously missing wake up calls. Then there's guys that are getting in their cars and going to the wrong rink, which blows my mind. It blows my mind. But then, I mean, the travel portions of things were really crazy. Like one story I always tell is I was in St. John with the Flames, and we were on a road trip to Wilkes-Barre to play the Penguins. And before we got in the bus to go to the game, the trainer called me and told me to go to see the coach in the office, in his hotel room. And they had loaned me to Long Beach. And I was like, oh God, really? I'm like, we're in Wilkes-Barre, Scranton, Pennsylvania. You loan me to Long Beach?
Yeah.
So I'll go, okay, well, how am I getting there? So they said, okay, well, go to the airport, rent a car, drive the car to Newark, get on your flight from Newark and fly to LA, and then they'll meet you there. I'm like, all right. So I get a shuttle to the airport, get to the airport, no rental cars. I don't have a cell phone this time. So I had to use the local phone at the office there and call the Flames and say, hey, they have no rental cars here. I don't know what to do. They said, what? Okay, give me a second. They finally call back. They send a limousine for me. Limousine comes and picks me up 2 hours later, drives me 2 hours to Newark. I get on a flight to LA, fly across country to LA, arrive in LA. The Booster Club person picks me up, drives me to Long Beach, puts me at the hotel. I check in, go to sleep, wake up. I'm thinking like, okay, I'm up. Let's go. It's 4 a.m. because I'm on East Coast time right now. I'm wide awake. So I'm wide awake from 4 a.m. all the way until maybe like 10 or so, or 9 or whatever it is. Finally, I get myself up, get to the rink, put my gear down. Can't go on the ice for pregame skate because I have to go for my physical. I have to head out to the physical where the doctors are, who does the LA Lakers thing. So now the physicals here, they don't take too long. That physical took all day. I was there from the morning. I didn't get out until 3:30. Had to run to Subway to get a lunch because I hadn't eaten all day, and then rush back to the arena. Get to the arena. The trainer said, "Hey, coach wants to see you." It was Kevin Kaminsky. Killer wants to see you. So I said, all right, go into Killer. I think he's going to tell me, okay, well, this is our system that we're running here, blah, blah, blah. I walk in his office. Killer looks at me and goes, you can't play. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, I just got here. I get it. I mean, maybe if you want to just go with your life. No, you can't play. I go, what do you mean I can't play? He goes, the trade, our signing deadline to get somebody in here was yesterday.
Oh my God.
I go, so I just went through all of that to get here now, finally, for you to tell me I can't play. I said, this has got to be something. I said, you got to be this. I was looking around. I said, I'm getting punked here. There's got to be some cameras around here. This can't be true. I said, yeah. I go, what am I supposed to do? Goes, just enjoy your weekend in LA, and then I guess to fly back to St. John on Monday. So flew back to St. John to then find out they didn't put me on their playoff roster.
Oh my God.
They didn't even let me practice with the team.
Oh.
So I had to go on the ice after the team practice, by myself. And you guys are one of the first people that ever hear this story. And I was like,
who was there? Who was Jim Playfair, the coach?
Playfair was half the year, and then he went up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, then he went up.
Because he replaced me. He replaced me in St. John.
Right. So,
and you're talking about that trip, and I thought it was bad when I got traded the day after Christmas, which it was, from Chicago to Buffalo, and didn't see my family until February 4th. I think that one tops it, though.
Hey, Squid, I think Jason's story kind of tops it. That's one.
Oh,
listen, we've got a few minutes left. We want to thank you so much for being with us, Jason. But I'd like you to talk about precision skating, how it started, and what's the focus behind it and methods, and tell us all about it.
Well, during my years of playing, I guess, being a guy who's like the extra forward, to be in the game and stay in the game as long as I did, your game had to continuously evolve. The days of guys that just going out there to fight were, they were disappearing very quickly. And, Rick, as you know, people,
and they're gone now, pretty much, right? I mean, yeah, it's good to have a guy on your team that's tough if you can play.
Right.
But you can't afford to have 1 or 2 or 3 guys on your team that can't play the game and are only there to fight. That has long gone away.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I had to continuously work on my skill to develop, to be able to, skate at that level and continuously play at that level. And, when you talk about meeting friends along the way, like when I just bounced around a couple different leagues in Major Junior, in Seattle, the one day I met a player there by the name of Paul Vincent Jr. And his dad, Paul Vincent Sr., is one of the, obviously, power skating gurus of on the Eastern Seaboard, I like to call it. But, Mr. V, they invited me to come down and spend the summer with them. And I gave up everything I had going on the summer, left my friends back home, everybody. And I went and lived in Boston for the summer and trained with Mr. V. We stayed at Cape Cod at his house, got up at 3:30 in the morning, drove 2 hours into Boston, trained at PV Acceleration, and then drove back to Cape Cod at the Bourne Rink. And, we skated, we did training, we did off ice. And, to work on my skills continuously is what I think is what helped me stay in the game. And, to be able to do that, I want to give that back to the kids, especially every summer I'd come home and see kids out there trying to skate, knowing what I went through, and, not having somebody to look up to, somebody to help me or guide me, being able to give that back to the community, give that back to the kids coming up myself. So, I started doing that, with my power skating and working on the learning lessons from Mr. V and Graham Townsend, who's another, hockey guy who came through Mr. V as well. But just work on the dynamics of skating, the edge work and, defensive skating, crossovers, different elements of the game along with your skill. I mean, stick handling wasn't one of my specialties. And for me, I always felt there's a time and a place for stick handling. And the best thing is not to over stick handle. If you can control that puck and put it to where you need to learn how to skate. And if you can skate, you can play the game. You skate, you control the puck, you control the game. And just being able to give those elements back to the kids and, open my school and then get back into coaching minor hockey in Toronto, with the Senators organization and a few junior organizations and OHL teams as well, which I was skating coach for and working with player development with Niagara and Kingston Frontenacs as well, and being able to get back to these players, work with them. And a lot of these guys that I've worked with and have come through me are now in the NHL or in NCAA, and some even playing pro. And some of the kids I coach in minor hockey right now, they're here with me, right? I'm running into them right now in the hockey world. I have a couple guys that playing for me now that I used to coach when they were younger kids. So everything comes full circle. So it's just a matter of when you give to these kids when they're younger, you get it paid back to you, in the future.
Fantastic. Final thoughts, Squid?
Yeah, there's no question. I mean, because my son obviously plays for Jason, and he tells me a lot about what you do in the summer, and then going back to Cincinnati and doing the clinics there and everything as well. He speaks very highly of you and what you do for other people more so than what you do for yourself. And I think that's very, very admirable and great.
No,
there's you and Maddie.
Yeah, good old Maddie. Maddie gave me my opportunity to get up here and coach and pro, and we were teammates in minor hockey, and I'm forever thankful for him to give me that opportunity, and it's led me to where we are today.
Fantastic. Well, listen.
So did you beat him when you coached against him in the training camp?
No,
Rochester.
We were on the same team, so everything worked out for us.
Oh, I thought you were going against one another.
Oh no, actually, we did in the Buffalo Prospects game. I was on the bench with the Buffalo.
Yeah, right.
He was in Boston, and I think they beat us that game. So, but I told him I'd give him one just to have under his belt.
Well, Jason, we can't thank you enough for joining us today. It's great, very enlightening. You know, we're big fans of the ECHL. Keep up the great work you're doing there, bringing them another championship, and hopefully we can get to see you guys play at some point.
I appreciate it. Thanks so much. And Ricky, look forward to you getting down here soon.
Okay, thanks again, Jason.
Yeah, the end of January. I think Wednesday, Friday, Saturday.
All right, we'll make sure the red carpet's rolled out.